Welcome to another live stream from the Ready Set Poem Podcast, your premier source for everything to do with the Vancouver Titans. I am Chris at Lightforce, the voice you tune in to each and every week if you subscribe to the podcast, and the voice you get to hear with each one of these live streams, post-match reviews, joined by you. That's right, Sam at Another Sam Chan is not here. He is currently eating himself some pizza. He went out and shilled for the team. Went out to Pizza Hut, picked himself a pie, and he's currently consuming it for dinner. Unlike him, however, I am here for you, our listeners, our viewers, and I'm going to provide you everything that you need to know about the Vancouver Titans match today against the Toronto Defiant and the world of food, because that appears to be the trending topic of the day over in Titans Court. I'm also missing in action Omni at Omni Strife. I know he had a busy day lined up with the day job, so it is possible he may drop in. But right now, it is me and only me. So welcome. So the plan is today to have a nice casual conversation, a little bit about the events between the Vancouver Titans and the Toronto Defiant. Share a few of my thoughts. I don't want to spoil too much because it makes for a much harder podcast to record come Tuesday when we'll have another live stream recording that live. But again, that podcast itself goes live on Wednesday for those who tune in on the regular channels. But I also wanted to go and really talk about some of the things that we saw. So case in point, the Vancouver Titans have a new player. If you did not know that, I am so sorry. It's hard to do spoiler alerts here on Twitch or wherever it happens to be you're watching this stream. But Shockwave, a new DPS player that the Vancouver Titans announced as number 7, so they're now at that official roster size minimum within the Overwatch League. He joined the team to play on Ping. He is actually in the EU, from what I understand, and did not disappoint. Now, before we actually get into the match itself, for those who are inquiring what type of DPS player is he, I wouldn't suggest he's a flex DPS. He seems to have a very similar hero pool to what we've seen from Dalton as well as Suna, with one distinct difference. He is known for his echo play. And again, we actually saw that come out because in the Melee tournament that's going on right now, I believe Boston and Paris are slugging it out, there were no hero pools. So with all heroes available, Echo was one of them. And for a number of maps, he did very, very well. So let's dive right on in. So the Vancouver Titans have struggled to really get off to a good start in every one of the matches we've seen so far. The closest to a good start that we saw was against the Washington Justice in their first match ever. But even then, the Washington Justice took that control map and took subsequent maps. The hybrid being the only one the Vancouver Titans have been able to win. Again, that was against the Vancouver Justice. Today started off the same way. In fact, you could almost argue that the Vancouver Titans seem to struggle within their current roster with that control map. And I don't know if it's a matter of coordination, if it's the plan that they're going to try to execute, maybe not executing as they saw fit, but they didn't look too hot. In fact, it looked as if we were going to see a very, very quick fight. The matchup didn't seem to tie in very well. Shredlock on main tank was dropping early, and I think having watched him sort of play, some of the struggles on Lijiang Tower that we saw were more to do with the ability for support to actually keep him up. It wasn't a positioning issue per se, as it was to the ability for support to invest the resources to keep Shredlock, who quite frankly has the W key on his keyboard, and I'm not entirely sure if S exists, goes forth. The one knock that I'll give Shredlock within that first fight was the use of a shatter that didn't seem to be well timed. Orisa had dropped a shield already. Like, it wasn't something that happened in sort of a second or two. It was just I think a miscue. I don't know if it was done through excitement, out of desperation. But again, that almost let us believe that we were going to see the same Vancouver Titans, composition that we had seen in previous matches, whether it be against the Atlanta Reign, the Philadelphia Fusion, Houston Outlaws. And then something happened. The Vancouver Titans, it's like they woke up and subsequently started to actually take maps off the Toronto Defiant. The Vancouver Titans looked like a cohesive team. They were coordinated, they were executing relatively well. I'd say the alt investment wasn't the best that we've seen from a Vancouver Titans team, but by far, the alt economy management and the investment of alts was the best that we've seen from a Vancouver Titans match with this newest roster. And it was at this point that we actually saw Shockwave start to just go ham, playing on Echo essentially throughout the entire series with the Defiant. It was as if the Toronto Defiant had identified Dalton as their focus. Like, let's prevent Dalton from doing any damage, and they were completely ignoring Shockwave for the most part. Eventually, it seemed that the Defiant started to figure out that, oh, okay, we got to deal with this Echo that continues to flank, continues to harass, continues to do things that just make our lives miserable. And by doing so, that actually freed up Dalton to then go to work. We also saw a more conservative approach to the main tank. So Shredlock went on to Orisa, and that provided him much greater flexibility to almost be less involved, so that W key got taken away, but that allowed, again, the support line, with the transition as well as the introduction of Baptiste, to, again, maintain our tanks. So if I were to take something away from these next two matches, was that we now saw, I think, what, myself, Sam, and even Omni had been talking about weeks ago, where we were seeing these signs of coachability. We saw signs that the team was going to be able to pull things together and improve. Now, are they there yet? Well, they lost 3-2 in a 5-map fight. No, I mean, no loss is ever a good loss. However, the match itself was entertaining, and if you take the control maps away, the Vancouver Titans essentially dictated the play throughout. When we get to the last control map, I'm a little bit concerned again with the picks, especially on the last map with the Lucio. I don't think an Overwatch League team is going to go and get themselves too close to the edge to be booped, and maybe it's a matter of speed. But the problem is that once Toronto had set up shop, they had almost bunkered to some respect, and the Vancouver Titans didn't have a dive to go in and initiate the play. We did see a Hammond, but then at that point, when Shred's going in on the hamster, Wrecking Ball just not getting into the actual fray and ultimately started defeat. It was just a really odd setup, and again, we saw very little adaptability at that point. Toronto actually did try to adapt, and functionally, when Logic started to have his way with both Dalton as well as Shockwave, it started to show sort of kinks in the Vancouver Titans' armor, and then Kariv just decided to go zen and end it. Once Kariv started just popping heads and providing the necessary healing and orb damage, unfortunately, it was lights out. Could the Vancouver Titans have won this one? I think they could have. The control maps, as I said, are obviously the bookend of trouble. But functionally, the future, I think, is becoming brighter and brighter. So if any of you players that might be tuning into this live stream, see this VOD afterwards, any of the coaching staff see this, I liked what I saw. Plus, today was entertaining. And I think that's really all I ask for, is I want to ask to see that there is an opportunity. So you're saying we have a chance. There was a chance. I can't remember the last time that I was sort of edge of my seat. And this is actually going back to the previous roster. Like, it's been a long time since I was that invested in the Vancouver Titans playing. Now, Toronto Defiant within the Melee tournament were sort of a bottom tier team. But at the end of the day, you show up, you compete, you learn from your mistakes, and you look to improve upon them. Now, when do the Vancouver Titans play next? Haven't a clue. It's not this weekend because they're out of the tournament. They didn't get in through the qualification match. But whenever the Overwatch League decides that it's time to share, future schedule plans, we will talk about it. Now, what else did I want to talk about? Well, I also wanted to touch on the fact that Titans Court is a lively place. We've talked a little bit about this in previous episodes. It's really nice to have the team involved, the staff involved, the coaching staff involved, and I completely appreciate the fact that English as a primary language makes it a whole lot easier, whereas for the previous roster that made it somewhat difficult. But there have been and still remain to date, Korean language channels in Titans Core. And if the players were to have jumped in there more frequently, I would have totally understood. I mean, it's why I sort of jump into the English language channels. It's the language I'm familiar with, the one I can communicate in. But that did not occur. I'm not here to go and rehash old wounds, but the fact that the players and the staff are there, embracing the community and genuinely participating in conversation and starting some up, as oddball as they might be, I think that's high value. One of the things that the Vancouver Titans have struggled with is to establish this connection to us as a fan group. There's a variety of different ways that they could go about doing that, and I think that they still have a lot of room to grow. But having the players and the staff be more involved is only a good thing. I don't care that today's conversation kicked off because Shredlock wanted to know the difference between boba and bubble tea. And not sort of difference, it's which one is it, boba or bubble tea? Now, there is only one correct answer. It is bubble tea. And I understand for some of you watching right now, that might be a little bit tilting. But, boba is fine. I accept and understand when you say, I'm going for boba, what you mean. But it is bubble tea. And, Katrina, I see you in chat, shaking your head, saying it's both. I agree it's both, but there is really only one right answer. Again, as I think people who were to go and say it's one or the other also consider, GIFs to be GIFs. And GIFs the peanut butter, GIFs the animated image. Just throwing it out there. But as silly as that might be, it shows personality. It shows this willingness to engage. And we started to see this conversation sort of spin off from that. And maybe it's food is, the great uniter within Titans Core, but it just seems to be a lot of these conversations, as silly as they are, around food. There's a recent one, again, because, Sam, being the shill, had grabbed himself a little pie from the Pizza Hut and dropped the picture in there. Fortunately, he did not have a Hawaiian pizza, so there was no pineapple. I think it was like a pizza type pizza. I don't know the Pizza Hut menu. It's been a while since I actually invested in pizza myself. But this kicks off another conversation. And again, it's identifying personality. It's light banter. But it helps you get to know each player and sort of coach and staff member. And Justin's involved in there as well, as a person. I mean, we think about it. Any relationship that you have with someone doesn't start because you simply know their name or you simply see them. It starts when you get to know them a little bit beyond the basics, like, what's your name, the where do you live, to use the dating term, the ASL concept. It's beyond that. A relationship is not just that. But now that we're starting to sort of see this, it's what I think the team needs to do to capitalize on the personality. Like, they can have a lot of fun. Katrina, you're sort of talking about this in chat, how there's this missed opportunity to show that to side of the Titans. And that was actually something that we tried to do when we interviewed them. For those of you who followed our podcast for quite some time, you might have had the opportunity to hear our interviews with the previous roster. We actually set up shop and we interviewed Bumper and Somansu, Slime. I'm trying to think if Stitch was there. We had Haxel, probably not the coaching staff. And I won't lie, it was somewhat of a difficult process. There was obviously the language barrier that made it somewhat difficult to communicate. But we tried to get more personality out of the players. Yeah, we could have gone and asked some serious questions about strategy and play style and all that. And we did to some respect, but our focus was on sports, food, what they did in their free time. Like, I think one of the greatest, and Katrina, you just brought up in chat, one of the greatest stories was so talking about his roommate, Rappel. And again, this is the episode that I would recommend you go back and listen to, because it actually showed a side of someone that I don't think people truly understood. Like, they had fun. I'll give you a spoiler alert. It talked about snoring. And not to suggest that the Vancouver Titans need to go and create videos about who snores and what have you, but it shows this personality that we don't otherwise get access to. And I think from a perspective of our podcast, one of the things that we strive to do is get this community to grow and provide you that sort of inside look. I mean, we don't get the opportunity to go and sort of peek behind the curtain or peek behind the door all that often. I mean, we talk about being the premier source of the Vancouver Titans, and that's more to do with podcast lore. We try to get that information out to you as soon as we have it, but it's not like the Vancouver Titans offer it up. We've actually talked about it at length when it comes to what we would love to do. And this is not just us. I know you and the community want to do much of this as well. And so my hope is that, the Vancouver Titans embrace this, but let us know what's going on in their world, their lives. Like we have this genuine investment. And we see this throughout sport. Let's just talk about that in general. Like in traditional sports, some of the greatest content that gets shared is where the players and the personnel themselves are doing like day-to-day things, real life activities. Like I remember there was a video shared. It's currently a Vancouver Canuck, Tyler Toffoli. And he shared a video of essentially at 7 o'clock at night in essentially Metro Vancouver. And it happens in cities around the world. People get out on their balconies, they go out and they make some noise, they clap their hands to show a respect and admiration of all the first responders and essential workers in the world. And Tyler Toffoli shares this video of he, and I think it's his wife, it might be his girlfriend, they're out in the balcony, and it's like, wow. That's all this was. That helped him almost get, further embraced by this Canucks fan group that already sort of followed him, briefly as his time in a Vancouver Canuck jersey. He only just got traded to Vancouver just before the pandemic shut things down. But a glimpse into someone's real life, speaks volumes. Another Canucks example was Pettersson, and he created his own video content. It was about what he's been up to in the pandemic, and it's like out there on his like balcony or something doing a little golfing, and it's like all these trick shots that obviously were fake, like he didn't sink them all, but he put this together and shared it. Again, personality. It's something to do with that's fun. I think the players themselves, they've been streaming themselves playing, and we saw it with the old roster, but again, it didn't give us that opportunity to get to know them, ask those questions, engage, learn more. And, I got to consider, I get it's a job in some respect, no one comes to my day job to find out what I do. But I'd like to think I'm a little bit more of an open book. So again, that type of stuff, we need more of that. Now, back to this whole story where I got into and Titans scored. So, pineapple on pizza is a must-have. If anyone here is watching right now believes that is wrong, I am so sorry. I don't understand how pineapple not on pizza is actually a thing. I don't suggest pineapple should be on every pizza you order. There's different combinations that you would get, but pineapple on pizza is phenomenal. And there's, for those of you who have ever been to Maui. Okay, so the island of Maui, go to Hawaii if you ever get there. Drive up to Lahaina on the sort of the northwest coast. There's a pizza place there called the Lahaina Pizza Company. It is by far some of the best deep dish I have ever eaten. And you're up sort of up top, it's a top level, but they've got like this open, balcony. You get to see out into the Lahaina harbor, the people walking down the front street. I think what it is, it's like just a great place to be. It's the tropical air. There's birds flying around, and you have a great piece of za. It's top notch. So please do yourself a favor, head to Lahaina, go to the Lahaina Pizza Company, eat some good za. Man, I'm seeing some funky emotes in chat. I'm just telling you, pineapple and pizza's life. I do admit, sometimes there are things that people do get wrong, like Shredlock suggesting that poutine might be overrated. But he's redeemed himself. He says it's bubble tea and that pineapple and pizza's good. So Shred's sort of turning into my good books here. We also learned today that Justin, he just learned what poutine is 2 weeks ago, and no, he has yet to try it. So we've, at RSP, already offered to take him out for some poutine. So if you happen to know where you can get the best poutine in Vancouver, let us know. And we've got some ideas. There's Fritz, and I'm trying to think, there's the Poutineery. There's a number of different places that we sort of have in mind. But if you think of a place, let us know. We can go in and take them there. Yes, super, Nanaimo bars. The Nanaimo bars are phenomenal. For our listeners and viewers that have never had a Nanaimo bar, it's essentially, it's like sort of a chocolate, sort of coconut filling. Coconuts might not be there. It's custard on top, a layer of custard, and then a layer of like chocolate on top of that. It's like a bar cake / I don't know, bundle of goodness. If there's one complaint that people have, and I can understand that it exists, it's that it's too sweet. But that, in my mind, is easily remedied by the type of chocolate you use. If you use like a nice, rich, dark chocolate, on top, just to balance out the sweetness, it's just the perfect balance of awesome. Like, oh my goodness. There is a reason why I am the guy who I am. And Nanaimo bars and poutine are some of those contributors to that reason. But again, I mean, the point that I'm trying to suggest is, while it all seems to be about food, it's getting to know this kind of stuff that helps us connect with the team. I hope that at some point down the road, we see more of this organically, but also ways to help the organization, recognize some of those of you in the community. I mean, we've seeing other teams get up to it, like the San Francisco Shock, they've been creating these videos recognizing just individuals within the community, their contribution to the actual sort of Shockwaves community, or Shock the World, or I can't remember what their hashtag is, but Shockwaves is their supporters group. And I mean, these are just ordinary people like you, and they've go to watch parties, they work in Discord, they help, generate the conversation. And I think it's the small kindnesses like that go a long way. One of the struggles we've had here sort of in our Force of Nature family is that lack of that connection and the small kindnesses. Like, it's, we talk about all the problems in the sense of, it's the organization, it's very corporate. And I think there are ways to remedy that. It's just going to take a little bit of work. And maybe there are plans, that have gone away that the pandemic prevented from occurring. But again, we are looking at a large league, and we see all these different comparables happening. We also see what, some of the teams have been doing to embrace their community as it pertains to these canceled homestands or canceled events. So about 2 weeks ago, I want to say it was, the Dallas Fuel sent care packages out to a number of different people. And I don't know if it went to everyone, but it did go to a number of different people. And in that care package was like a personalized note recognizing, the person's contribution to their community. They got some swag. I believe they got some spray coats, skin coats, things of that sort. The Soul Dynasty sent out a care package, which included, like, so for Devakal, who you might have heard on our podcast previously, she got a little Lego figurine, and it has her name on the back of this Lego character wearing like Soul Dynasty, sort of uniform and branding. And again, it's stuff like that when you go and you show that you're recognizing those that help elevate your brand and do a lot of this work for you, it allows others to aspire to want to be part of that. I'm not going to go and knock, sort of what we haven't seen, because it is possible that, again, the Titans have plans like that. But, for those of you who happen to have homestand tickets that were canceled, the Vancouver Titans sent you an email that included essentially a skin code. It's 100 tokens, so you could technically buy whatever skin you want. It doesn't have to be Titans, but I would hope you might get a Vancouver Titans skin, preferably Reinhardt. And you also got the sprays for the homestand that you would have otherwise received. That's nice. I mean, that's actually more in some cases than some other teams have provided. I was actually asking some of the other Overwatch League podcasters, like, hey, what has everyone received? And someone's like, well, I got physical tickets. I'm like, really? They're like, yeah, that's all I have, physical tickets. I got nothing else. The team hasn't sent anything. I just know these aren't valid, and I have to get a refund. There was reports that the London Spitfire were not necessarily offering a refund. They were saying, hey, instead of a refund, can we send you some gear? And I'm not going to knock that approach, because from an organizational perspective, you're banking on sort of cash to operate, and it's possible that went into an operating fund that then got spent. So now that you're going to have to take from the operating fund, there's a trickle-on effect. And if we think about the margins on merch in that, it's a lot easier to go and give you, let's say, $200 worth of merch that maybe only cost you, let's say, I'm going to say $100, $150, you're still saving yourself some money, than actually giving you $200 cash back. That cash value is significant, especially when you're not getting the revenue we're expecting from a gate or higher merch sales or whatever it might be. But I think there's still room to improve. I think there's an opportunity for different teams, whether it be the Titans or others, to just look at the community, those that are in there, and try to elevate them, showcase what it is they do, who they are. I'm gonna actually refer to a local sports team, the Vancouver Whitecaps. So they are the local soccer team, or football, if you're not from North America. The Vancouver Whitecaps have this sort of promotion during home matches where they have their season ticket holder of the match, and that season ticket holder of the match generally gets to either come out in the field, provide the team ball, but there's a story told where they get to share how long they've been a season ticket holder, what that first got them sort of inspired to be a season ticket holder, and they talk about some of their favorite moments. Like if you were to ask me, hey, Light Force, what's your favorite moment? For me, it's a combination of either Bumper on Anubis when we first started to see Bumper do Bumper things, or when Bumper was on Volskaya as Widow, where he clicked 3 heads and decided to jump off the map. I mean, these are the things that, I enjoyed the most because it was entertaining. It's the silliness. Today, we were sort of talking about Shockwave, and if you were part of RSP Cord, we were talking about how on Rialto, Shockwave went, I think got a 4K, it might have been a 5K, and then he proceeded to die. And so I immediately go and say, Shockwave is a feeder, and someone's like, well, he went feeding first, and then he fed, which then sort of had me relate that to be the concept of, he's the perfect person that goes to the buffet. The restaurant hates him because Shockwave eats everything, but he's good to you and the team because he always goes and gives everyone a plate, the guy that makes sure everyone's got food. Anyhow, where was I going with this? So the Vancouver Whitecaps go and showcase a season ticket holder every match. There are a lot of season ticket holders, and not everyone obviously gets showcased that point, but it's something that's easy to execute, and I don't mean easy in so much as the production value. Now, I'm sure that's complicated, but it's easy to accomplish, and it provides just this value that costs really time. You're creating content, however, and you're able to go and put it on the big screen and show everyone else. So it almost motivates people. I want to be part of that group. I might want to pay a season ticket. They also have another sort of showcase that takes place where they recognize an individual, and generally it's children, but an individual who has, sort of worked through adversity and persevered through some troubling times. In some of the cases, like it's children who've battled, leukemia or cancer or some form of illness, and they actually get to be announced as if they're part of the starting lineup. So they go and they announce all the starting players, and at the end, they actually do a video of this kid. For the most part, it's not always kids, but they do a video where it's the same sort of, entrance, and then the announcer says their name, and then the crowd says their last name, which is the call and answer that Vancouver Whitecaps fans use at the start matches. Like this, I give it my all shouting this kid's name, but the point is that wouldn't that be something cool for the Vancouver Titans to try to execute on? And I don't know how necessarily from a world that we're in today that they can go and do that, but like we've seen other teams go and give starting rosters. The Philadelphia Fusion had a video. It introduced like who the starting, sort of players were when we played them, one of them being Chipsa. Well, have a video like that and then work in, a fan or someone within the community. I mean, there are different things that could be done. Just having, the idea and executing on it, it might or may not work. But if we saw the team and the organization experimenting to that extent, I think there's a lot of credit could be provided. I mean, people that would embrace the idea that they're trying, which is something that we, find may be lacking right now. So, enough of that. Let's talk a little bit about what else has gone on over the course of the day. So, the Toronto Defiant, by beating the Vancouver Titans, got into the May Melee tournament. And the way it worked out is that a number of different teams got to pick who they were going to play. And so we saw the Paris Eternal, instead of picking the Toronto Defiant as the lowest rated team, picking the Boston Uprising. That meant the Atlanta Reign had a chance to go and pick on the Toronto Defiant. That was also an opportunity for, I believe, it was Dallas Houston was the second match. And then we had the LA Gladiators take on the Washington Justice. And I might have got those two mixed up there, but I know I got the teams correct. Los Angeles Gladiators looked nothing like the team that lost to Boston last week, plus Big Goose was in. They looked superior. Houston didn't look too bad, but oh my goodness, did K go just absolutely crazy on Widow. He was essentially clicking every head that was possible to be clicked on. And what makes this surreal is he was on Widow with a double shield and was still able to go and find like sightlines to click on heads. He had something like 42% critical hit accuracy while scoped. Like, that's almost 1 out of every 2 shots struck the criticals hitbox. Like, that's unbelievable. And, we did see, Lynx would try to return the favor, but it just, once Decay started popping everyone, that was it. We also saw just recently the Toronto Defiant get taken to the cleaners by the Atlanta Reign. And while there is some debate over whether or not the match got stopped, the Atlanta Reign had it won and then proceeded not to take the point in overtime and instead spend all their time tactical crouching. We then saw the Defiant sort of race in to challenge, and next thing you know, the match is over. Jaws and Hex are saying GG's, and that was that. So I don't know, again, if it was similar to what we saw last week with all the crazy rubber banding and sort of, jittering stops and starts with the lag and that, or if it truly was like hard stopped and then bounced to an end. But right now, I don't know what the matchups like, but Boston and Paris are currently going at it, and I would imagine there's a few of you who are watching that in a watch party right now, because Boston has a virtual watch party where people can tune in, chat while they're watching the match, and I think by being there you're entered in to win some spray codes, so that's kind of cool. We'll have more about the weekend that was when we get into our regularly scheduled episode, which we will record, Tuesday night, as we normally have been doing. And if you happen to listen to the podcast, you'll also get to hear it, obviously, Wednesday at high noon. Some other news. You have helped us take this podcast to stratospheric levels. When I kicked things off about a year and a half ago now, I mean, actually a little bit more than that, it was just me. I had this idea that the Vancouver Titans had a team. I wanted to create another podcast to complement this Vancouver Canucks podcast that I've been doing for quite some time. And I had this domain I owned, ReadySetPwn.com. And so I decided, you know what? Already Set Pwn's going to be this podcast that's going to go and talk about the Vancouver Titans. I had this vague idea of that, there might be someone who might be interested in it. I didn't really know who that was. And I remember my first episode, which if you go back in time and listen to it, is rough. I think it's like 15 minutes long, and most of it is the introduction and exit, the song that we've been playing from day one. I soon got in touch with Sam, or Sam got in touch with me, and he and I have actually known each other for quite some time through the Vancouver Canucks social media scene. That's how we got connected. And he had offered to help me out. And soon after that, Omni reached out to me to say he wanted to get involved. Now, Omni, he was actually the guy who went to the Vancouver Titans reveal party and streamed it. He wasn't the only one, but the Vancouver Titans, and we were actually talking about this on RSP Court today, they shared the reveal on their Twitch channel, and as long as you ignored Vancouver Titans Twitch chat, which was just absolutely horrendous, the reveal was really cool, and then that was that. There was really no streaming of any content within the event itself, and the meet and greet took place afterwards, and Omni not only was able to share that, he was pretty much like sitting on the lap of the team. He was right at their table. He got to talk to some of the players. He got to talk to Michael. I think he talked to Harsha at the time. And so he joined me subsequent episode, shared his news about the event, and, we decided let's continue doing this. So you had Sam, Omni, and me starting to, produce episodes. And we've essentially created an episode every single week, except for during this sort of off season where we reduced it to every 2 weeks. Well, during this period of time, I had hoped that we might get, a dozen downloads a week. I thought, based on my Canucks podcast, which started small, we might be able to get up to, maybe triple digits within a few years. And you proved me wrong. You had us up into the triple digits within the first few weeks. As of right now, the Ready Set Pwn podcast, your premier source with everything to do with the Vancouver Titans, is sitting beyond 10,000 podcast downloads. You helped us break the 10K barrier this past week by listening to our latest episode. L is for lessons, not loser. L is for lessons. I can't begin to tell you how awesome that is. My Canucks podcast took I want to say 4 years to get to that level. And the Vancouver Canucks have a huge following. And when we kicked that podcast off, there weren't that many Vancouver Canucks podcasts at the time. So, technically speaking, there's very little difference between the Canucks podcast and RSP with us talking about the Vancouver Titans. So what is the difference? Well, it's you, our followers, but it's the community. It's the Force of Nature family. And the fact that I know a lot of you tune into our episodes and watch these streams, and you may maybe not be as big of a Vancouver Titans fan anymore, but you're fans of RSP and what we do, and you're fans of the people that you get to connect with. Like, we've created this real welcoming, tight-knit community, and, it's helped this podcast, excel in ways that I would have never imagined. Like 10,000 downloads is huge to me. And I'm not looking to say that we're the next, Joe Rogan, who's now apparently made like $100 million selling our podcast to Spotify. But the fact that, you're showing us that you want us to continue to provide the content empowers us to do that. And, all I can do is thank you from the bottom of my heart for helping us, make that happen. I've got a few things planned to celebrate the 10,000 download, sort of milestone that we've reached. We're going to talk a little bit about what those plans are next week. So on Tuesdays, live stream, we'll talk a little bit about that. I'm hoping to have at least some form of contest to reward our listeners with an opportunity to gain something for being there along the journey. Our podcast, is self-funded, though, I know a number of you have supported us through Patreon, and for that, I am truly thankful. It helps actually alleviate, many of the costs that we have when it comes to producing the content, whether it's the hosting of the podcast, the hosting of the website, the gear and whatnot that we have to produce. This helps make that possible. And I'm probably still going to go and continue to self-fund for as long as I can. But even in the environment that we are today, it does, become somewhat more difficult. So you helping us, goes a long way to allow it to continue to happen. And now that you've helped us, achieve affiliate status here on Twitch, it's one of the reasons why we're going to continue to provide you these live streams. I mean, we want to go and provide you better access to us, but better access to the content that we have, but also find more ways that we can get you, our listeners, and our viewers involved with what it is that we do. And, the other benefit of us having these Twitch live streams is it does give another avenue for those that might have it in them to support us, whether it is through the dropping of a subscription through Twitch. If you have Amazon Prime, you can also get yourself set up with Twitch Prime, which provides you that one free monthly subscription that you can provide to any streamer on Twitch. It doesn't have to be us here at RSP, but for those of you who, have it in you that can do that, we're truly appreciative. There's also some of you that might simply want to drop a subscription to us. And again, that's generous of you and we truly appreciate it, or the use of bits. But, we're not looking to shill for money. For us, it's not about, us three of us quitting our full-time jobs, though. If we ever got to that level and we could, I can assure you the content would probably be top-notch, because we would be looking to set that bar to continue ensuring that we could do it full-time. But, at the end of the day, if I were to go back to that real rough podcast, if I go back to the beginning and think about what things were like and then sort of imagine where we are today, I wouldn't have even dreamt it. I would not have dreamt that first season the Vancouver Titans would have been as phenomenal as it was. I would have never dreamt that the Vancouver Titans themselves would have been in the grand final. Like, these weren't things that I would have considered about the play of the team. I knew nothing about the community. I knew nothing about the scene. I just knew that I liked playing Overwatch as a game, and Vancouver had a team, and I wanted to be a guy that happened to have a podcast about them. And that's all this was. And now here we are today. So, again, to you, our listeners, our viewers, thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. I know Sam and Omni feel the same way, and as I mentioned, we have some sort of ideas of what we can do to celebrate this a little bit more. So you'll want to tune in on Tuesday if you can to watch the live stream. And if you can't, that's okay, because that live stream that you see on Tuesday night is identical to the episode that we publish on Wednesday at high noon, as we normally do. So I'm gonna, keep things nice and short tonight. It is just me, and I don't, again, want to go and continue to talk about the entire sort of event of the day because there is more Melee tournament to be had. There are more tokens for you to finally earn by watching, if it hopefully works, either on the Overwatch League website or through their app. Remember, just watching on YouTube isn't sufficient to get yourself tokens, at least yet. And you know what? At the end of the day, we're seeing some top-tier Overwatch League play. I think the lack of hero pools has provided this opportunity to see, more diverse play styles. I do think the Maycoms we're seeing is not the best style of play, but that's something that I would prefer to deal with than, hero pools that outright ban heroes, that take, the fun away from the players that can provide us the best type of play in the game. What the future holds right now for the league, don't know. What the future holds for the Titans, I don't know. But you're here with me. I will continue to come back, and for that, we're going to enjoy the journey. So on behalf of myself, Chris Satellite Force, Omni at OmniStrife, and Sam at Another Sam Jan, thank you for tuning in to this live stream. We will continue to provide, or at least I will, these post-match reviews after every Vancouver Titans match. We'll try to continue to have them at 6 p.m. Pacific to keep things consistent. That said, if the Vancouver Titans do play a little bit later, we may need to adjust accordingly, but we will continue to provide them. We hope you continue to tune in. My hope is that we can evolve these to be a little more conversational, a little more interactive, and we are already exploring ways to get some other voices onto these live streams. We have the space to do so and the wherewithal to do so, but it's just a matter of ensuring that we can get the right voices on, the ones that you want to hear, and also do it in a manner that makes it entertaining so that you continue to tune in and see value by supporting us here at Ready Set Pwn. If you have tuned in for the very first time, I ask that you can just click that follow button so you can be reminded the next time we go live, and you can go to readysetpwn.com to find out everything about our podcast, whether it be how to subscribe to the podcast itself, anything you need to know about myself, Sam, or Omni, and some of the other fun things we do. Last but not least, if you're not yet in RSP Discord for Ready Set Pwn, the easiest way to join is by going to discord.io/ReadySetPwn. ! Discord is the command in chat, which will provide you the link as well. So, thank you again for tuning in, and I'm going to wish you off with those magical 2 words. Catchphrase!